Hi, my name is Peter Romney, and this is a presentation about earnings management fraud. The period cutoff date is a major area of concern conducted within an audit. The recording date of every transaction around that cutoff date is critical to determine the period's revenues and expenses. As mentioned in Chapter 7, public companies often structure their bonuses for executive officers based on periodic earnings projections. These projections are provided by external analysts and are a good indicator to determine the overall value of the company, if such projections are met. Social Network GVV Case is a great example of the cutoff audit and will prepare accountants for the real world, because in all honesty, it could happen at any company. There are three main characters within the Network Solutions case: Sarah, the controller, Paul, the CFO, and Shannon, a friend of Sarah, who is also a controller at another company. Sarah has disputed recording a $15 million revenue transaction from DSS, a longtime customer of Network Solutions, on December 28, 2015. And Paul is very upset with her and insists that she record it. Sarah has determined that revenue should not be recorded because of the following transaction information that was mentioned within the case. It should be noted that an auditor is going to be skeptical of every transaction around the cutoff date and will ask similar questions regarding such transactions. The first will be, is the transaction channel stuffing? Has Network Solutions done its part before the cutoff date? Is management under pressure to hit earnings? DSS is a reoccurring customer and doesn't necessarily need the services with the product at that time, as mentioned in the case. They eventually will, but not at the exact moment. To make their supplier happy, they agree to purchase it at the time. DSS will not pay for the product by giving Network Solutions one of its products until 30 days later. Sarah mentions that Network Solutions hasn't completed all it needs to before the cutoff date. It's considered a swap transaction because no cash is involved. Without the recording of this transaction, Network Solutions doesn't reach its projected earnings set by external analysts. Based on this information, an auditor would dispute the transaction being recorded in December. Sarah is conflicted because she wants to keep her job, but she doesn't want to be involved in earnings management fraud. So she seeks advice from her friend Shannon, who suggests to share her concerns with Paul again after the weekend has passed. Before Sarah has the meeting, she should prepare for the following. First, a bold yet diplomatic way to tell Paul that the transaction is channel stuffing in its nature, and the auditor would definitely agree. If the feeling is right, she could ask, what exactly is our intention by booking this transaction in December? Does it represent our true earnings? I feel ethically obligated to state to the public the numbers that are accurate. By saying some of these questions and these statements correctly, this could open up conversations. Hopefully Sarah can talk to Paul about before an auditor, as we discussed in the previous slide. If the conversation doesn't go well with Paul, then she needs to address it with the board of directors. She should not be the one to record the transaction, and if it's recorded, then she needs to let the auditors know about it. If she is fired, then she needs to take a case to court for unlawful termination. If Sarah records it and it passes the audit without investigation, the public has been deceived of what the true earnings are, and that would be fraud. In conclusion, I think Sarah needs to think through what an auditor would do and say concerning the transaction. Walk through the scenario with Paul, prepare for the worst, and last of all, hope for the best.